it looked like a throwback game from my time period where you had three bigs on the court and it was getting physical in the paint.
Hello and welcome to Beat Everyone, your show about Crimson Tide sports. I am producer Matt Scalisi, subbing in for our regular host Ben Flanagan today, and it is my greatest joy to wish you all a happy March. It's one of the great times to be a sports fan. The first weekend of NCAA tournament is behind us. We have all hopefully had the time to soak it all in and enjoy it and have your TVs on all weekend. What a great time to watch sports, and we're joined by one of Alabama's legends once again, joining us for his second appearance on the show. He is an Alabama basketball legend. He is the pride of Athens, Alabama. Richard Hendrix. Richard, thanks again for coming back to the show with us.
Thank you for having me. Always a joy to be here.
Well, so Richard, we're going to get into Alabama's first weekend in the tournament. They made their way through Robert Morris and St. Mary's, and they're headed to their third straight Sweet 16 appearance. They're fourth in the last 5 years. Really a lot to celebrate. But before we get into that, I would like to go back to your days as a Crimson Tide basketball star and talk about your perspective of this time of year. You were part of the 2006 NCAA tournament team who we talked a little bit about in your last appearance on the show. You guys made it to the second round and squared off against this absolutely ridiculous collection of talent that UCLA had that year after kind of a dramatic win over Marquette in the first round. Talk me through the experience from a player's perspective of this time of year, the waiting to find out whether you got into the tournament or if you do, where you are in your lineup. And also a thing about this that I'm really curious about, preparing for opponents, because you suddenly out of nowhere get all of these potential opponents thrown at you that you haven't seen all year. You've never studied them. They don't show up on tape for your opponents most of the time either. Talk me through kind of that aspect of it, the player's perspective of getting ready for this event.
Yeah. My freshman year, we made the NCAA tournament, and I think the way we made it, we had some really big wins in the SEC season down the stretch. We won 10 wins in the tournament, in the SEC season, and that was enough to get us in as an at-large. And it kind of goes when you're sitting around watching the selection show, you feel confident that you're going to be in. You're not sure because you are a team that had been flirting around with the bubble. But you hear your name being called and you see it on the screen. And it's all of a sudden we were a 10 seed and we're playing Marquette. And me being a freshman, I really don't know what's going on. I've watched the NCAA tournament my entire life. I was hoping to be a high seed and make a deep run, go to the Final Four. But when you hear your name called, you're happy to just be a part of it. And the thing was, when we saw that we were playing Marquette, I thought the interesting thing was that immediately I saw the assistant coaches just kind of huddle up. It was a celebration for a second, and it was like they got to work. It was like immediately they got on the phone, seeing who they could call. And this is a time when you didn't have all these scouting databases online to find all these advanced metrics and film of every player in the world from every shot and all of this kind of stuff. So they had to figure out a way to get the DVDs or get the footage somehow of Marquette's recent games. And it immediately turned into a celebration. And then after about 5-10 minutes, it was like, okay, guys, let's talk about what we're going to have to do and how we're going to get to work. And for me, we were going to California. That was my first time I'd ever been to California. So it was just a lot going on. As a player, the basketball preparation and tough practice part is over at this part of the season. It's tournament play. It's all about keeping your body fresh. There's going to be a lot of walkthroughs. There'll be a lot of shoot-arounds. There's a lot of tactical things that you have to know on the fly about players that you never heard of. But the thing that benefited us, and me particularly, was when you're a young player, you don't know a lot of these guys. And when you don't know someone, it sometimes can play into your favor. You don't have any fear. You're just ready to go out there and play. And you just see the man for what he is. And if he doesn't have a huge reputation, which the guys on Marquette didn't particularly have that, it wasn't something that struck a lot of fear in us. So I felt like we knew we had a good matchup. And, it happens very quickly. I think, the selection show on a Sunday and you're getting ready to head on out on a Tuesday or whatnot to go to California. So you 1 or 2 practices in Tuscaloosa, got on the plane, headed out to San Diego, and we had the first game. And the first game actually was stalled by a bomb threat.
I remember.
That started and had us out there for like 2 hours. We couldn't even play. So it was just a crazy moment. But the mentality of getting prepared for that, it moves quickly, and you really have to be prepared to move on a fly.
Did you even get to go outside in San Diego on that trip at all?
Coach took us to the beach, so I did go to the Pacific Ocean, and I put my toe in there just to say that I touched the Pacific. I remember it being kind of cool too. Like we went out there and it was kind of breezy and whatnot, so we had on our sweatsuits and whatnot. But he did take us there. I'm sure we had a nice restaurant to eat. But I'd never been to California, and I'm a small town guy. I don't have to see a whole lot of stuff like that. Just get me to the hotel, show us where the food is, show me where the bus is, get to the game, and let's go play. I don't really want to go outside the hotel and see any sightseeing. I just want to go play the game. And I'm still that way, to be honest with you. But,
just kind of business trip mentality. Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is for me. So it was cool. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of the NCAA tournament and to win a game. That was pretty cool to see in a neutral site, all of the different schools there, the pageantry of the bands and the pep bands that travel, the cheerleaders that travel, coming out of the hotel and how they have like a little pep rally for you walking to the bus. That was a neat situation, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that is a weird aspect for people who've never actually been to one of the games. It's like similar to the SEC tournament in that like you have all these different fan bases all mixed together, which is a unique experience if you're mainly used to individual games, right? Where there's at most 2 fan bases. But now it's like, okay, well, there's Washington fans in here, there's Marquette fans in here, there's like people from the other side of the bracket. It's a weird collection of people.
Right, because you also have teams that are playing at the site that are not in your bracket or the region.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit different. As you mentioned, Washington was playing a game, and I believe Belmont might have been playing a game at that same venue, but they weren't slotted to play us in the next round. UCLA might have played Belmont, I believe. They were the 15-2 game. And so we played them in the next, but Washington was playing a game in the same site, and they were in another region. So it was cool, and I think also if you go back to 2006, I've seen some of the sites this year, and a lot of the crowds seem to be empty, particularly that Alabama game. I was looking behind them. I'm like, no one's there. Like, what's going on, So I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old. It seemed like it was better back in my day when the games were on one channel. We all remember it was on one channel in the middle of the day, and you flipped from game to game. It was almost like that NFL red zone situation. Now you got all of the games playing by themselves on 3 or 4 different stations. I thought it was a little bit better back in the day when it was one channel and you had Greg Gumbel just kind of saying, let's go see what's going on in Boise. And let's see what I thought that was pretty cool. But, it's interesting.
I'm with you on feeling like an old man and complaining about change for sure, Richard. There's an interesting comment that I want to ask you about too, from LeBaron Philon, who was asked really after kind of the opening weekend about the way that this team, and we'll get into some of this specifically with this team, but I have kind of a larger question to ask about it. He talked about the way that the scoring has been distributed. This has not been a team so far in this tournament where it's been 1 or 2 guys that are just really going off. It's pretty evenly distributed among really kind of the 2 deep of this team. And he said nobody's complaining about it. It's we're all just happy to be playing another game with our brothers, with our friends out here. And I want to ask you because it sort of struck me hearing you talk about the fact that at this stage in the season, practicing is very different. You're not trying to change fundamentally what you're doing. It's like, this is who we are. This is the group. Can you talk about kind of how that the sense of a team having an identity and a camaraderie with each other, like how much does that play into this time of year?
Oh, it's huge. You have 30 plus games to go back on to pull from all of the different scouting reports and things that you've done before to make those adjustments on the fly. And that type of chemistry that you have in those games can be impactful. I can remember when we played Marquette, and Marquette was a team that had some good shooters, had some really good guards, but we'd had some success in some previous games, particularly against Florida, was a team that was running heavy ball screen action, and we were able to go back and do some things that we did in that game, how we guarded it, and what you could rely on. But at the same time, you want to be confident and you want to be playing well. Here's the thing. Here's the reality of the season, and this is all sports and all athletes. There's a game within the game for all athletes that play. You care about the team, but you also care about yourself and you care about your statistical production. I mean, you go in these arenas, you see a ribbon board and stat monitors all over. I can't be told every player knows how many points they have. They know what's going on in the game. But when you get to tournament time, you can only hope that players that have a mentality that they are concerned about their individual production can shut that mode off and do whatever it takes in the midst of the game to win the game, because there is no tomorrow. So if you're the guy that doesn't have it going, you have to understand, like, hey, I'm not making shots, so let me take better shots or do something to help someone to get a better shot themselves. It's not your night to keep pushing the envelope to say, hey, I'm going to try to get my points or try to get my average, because if you mess the team up, it's over for everybody. And that's where the maturity of a good team has to come in. You hope that you have depth. You hope that you have players that you can go into the roster to understand that mentality, because I've been on teams that when you do have guys who just can't grasp that, and it happens, they can't grasp the team concept even into the last game. They're still thinking about themselves. And that's how you have an early exit in the NCAA tournament.
Well, the scenario that you described there seems to actually kind of match up well with a player, a key player on this Alabama team. And we'll get into him here too. I mean, look, Mark Sears has not had the kind of numbers scoring wise in this postseason that I think a lot of people have expected. I mean, we've all seen him go off and have huge games, but he hasn't. The scoring numbers haven't been there as much for him. Let's talk about how that played out in these first two games against Robert Morris and St. Mary's, because I think the team's offensive production has still been pretty good. I know everybody's going to look at the St. Mary's score and say that's a low number for Alabama, but versus St. Mary's, that is, I don't believe any other team has scored 80 points this season on that team.
Right.
So what did you see watching those games in terms of how the Alabama offense functions right now, even when Mark Sears' shots are not falling?
Well, listen, I mean, this is one of those things that we're talking about that. Like, Mark Sears is going to have to read the game and understand if his shots are not falling, then it's just not going to be your night. And you're going to have to figure out a way to get a higher percentage shot and trust the offense. I mean, oftentimes in the last game in St. Mary's, we knew that this was going to be a game of tempos. St. Mary's, you have a 10, 12-point lead. In the clock is on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama wants to push it up the court. We all see that Sears is struggling to get his point production, not able to get into his groove. But at the same time, you're going to have to read the situation of the game, that the clock is your friend, and work it around a little bit more to see if you can get a better quality shot, not the bottled up shots at the rim, not the over dribbling. Trust it and give it back. And that's the toughest thing to do. But here's the reality. Your stats, your big game performances. Yes, everybody wants them in the NCAA tournament. You all dream of that. But as far as the next level is concerned, there's been 120 games of scouts that have been able to see what you can do. One game of you maybe not having, a marquee type game is not going to be something that's going to impact you. So you shouldn't press to try to do that at the sacrifice of the team. This is a strong team. I think they've done a really good job of utilizing their bigs well. They're not letting Alabama get the drivers all the way to the basket, particularly Mark Sears going to his left all the way. And they've been a really good job of finding the alley-oops up top to Clifford Amore early in the game when teams try to make sure they keep Alabama out of the paint. It's going to be that type of reading of the game that Alabama and their guards are going to have to do. Do you find the big on the dump off? Can you see the skip pass on the other side to get the open shooter? And then as all of that makes the defense have to respect every aspect of the D or of the offense, then that's when the driving lanes will be open. That's when the early transition shots will be open. But you have to be able to trust it and read it throughout from a team perspective, because if you're trying to press and do it on your own, I mean, the pressure will just get on you in the NCAA tournament because you can all feel it. You can feel it when that clock is coming down that the season could be at the end and you got to make a big play, but you got to trust the system to get it done.
Richard, you're a man who's an expert when it comes to playing in the paint and post play generally. We talked about the last time you were on here that could be a matchup issue for Alabama going forward. But as you just talked about, they're seeming to find a way to score in those high percentage shots, even against teams that have a big size advantage against them. We saw them come up with a big win on the road at Auburn. And then this St. Mary's team, I mean, it just seemed like the whole team was made out of absolute giants in the post,
Yes.
and Alabama found a way to get the ball to Amore and Diabate, and in some cases Nelson. Tell me a little bit, as a layperson, how is Alabama managing to work their way through these size disadvantages they have and still score in the post despite the sort of size mismatch there?
Well, I would not technically say that Alabama has a size disadvantage, because Alabama has size. It's a mentality about being so. Listen, you can be big, but if you don't play big and think big, then what does it matter? You see, and that's what it's about. See, St. Mary's has a mentality that every one of those players is thinking big. They're thinking, I want the contact, I want the grind, I want this basket as close as I can to the paint. Alabama thinks a little bit differently. And within that, Clifford Amore is 6'11", Grant Nelson is 6'10", 6'11", Jaron Stevenson is 6'10", Aiden Sherrill is 6'11". I mean, they have great positional size, and Nate Oats was able to use that. I saw one lineup with Aiden Sherrill and Clifford Amore and Grant Nelson, or Jaron Stevenson out there at the same time. It looked like a throwback game from my time period where you had three bigs on the court, and it was getting physical in the paint. And the key for them to win that was to close out every single possession with the defensive rebound. So to me, that type of physicality is always going to be important. Alabama has stepped up to the challenge, and they need to do that. They're going to have another physical game down low in the next one. Keita Keba is a really strong player down low. He's a rim protector. He likes to get physical. He's a great rebounder. They're going to have to match that same physicality. BYU will also be a tough-minded team. You have to match that. They have great length. They have great length at the guard position as well. So it's one of those things where it's a mentality. It's not about your physical size. Are you thinking that you're going to play big? The adjustments have been made, I saw in the last game, but they're going to have to do a really good job. I also love to see that the bigs did not just play drop coverage all night long. I saw Clifford Amore, Grant Nelson. They were hedging on pick and rolls. They were high out on those screens. I think that is an effective strategy. When you play in drop coverage as a big, even if you are back protecting the rim from no one to get there as a shot blocker, you still have to have enough athleticism to potentially be at the level of the ball screen to deter the ball handler to not turn the corner and shoot a mid-range jumper and still be able to get back and guard your man and protect the rim. That's one area that Alabama has struggled in, and it might be a little bit about a strategy thing, but I think they have the physical tools to be able to do it all. I would challenge my bigs to be able to be all over the court.
You touched on it a little bit here, but BYU, the next opponent, one of the things that I hear people saying about them so far is, unlike St. Mary's, this is a team that really pushes tempo. They get a lot of offensive possessions. They love to get up and down the floor quickly. talk about the matchup from what you know about BYU so far, and then maybe just generally too, Alabama playing against a team that is that style in terms of the tempo that they like to play with.
Well, that style benefits Alabama. Anybody that likes to get up and down and shoot threes and play from the outside doesn't have a traditional big that can post up, and that's going to be something that favors Alabama. The way that Nate Oates and his teams have been able to take advantage of teams is to get the early lead, to play at the faster pace, and it forces you to have to play the style that they want to play. The things that they've had problems against are teams that can grind it out, play it slow, throw it in the low post, draw fouls, and make the game ugly. If you look at this season all along, the teams they've struggled against, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Oregon had this early on, Purdue, all of those teams that I mentioned had a strong low post presence. They had veteran point guards who could come down and run the teams. The Kai Ziegler at Tennessee, Denver Jones running the show at Auburn, on and on. Purdue being able to run the show all game long and take their time running the offense. That type of stuff makes Alabama be a little bit anxious. It makes them shoot a quick shot on offense. They give it right back to you. And then it's a challenge for them to get in the game. So if you got a team that's going to try to push it, that plays right into the hands of what the Tide is trying to do.
Now, we know the team is not going to be looking ahead, but between me and you, if Alabama is able to get past BYU, waiting for them in the Elite Eight will be the winner of Arizona versus Duke. In terms of how much you've seen of either of them, what can you tell us about potential matchups there? I know Arizona's coming out of the Big 12, which is weird to say because I still see them and think about the Pac-12. But
makes no sense.
Yeah, but look, they're coming out with a very high seed in what is traditionally a very tough basketball conference. Duke, obviously, everybody is aware of them this year. They're a tremendous team. They beat Auburn at some point in the regular season, one of the few teams to do that. What do we know about either of these as a potential matchup for Alabama?
Well, Duke's a well-coached team by John Shire. They're playing really good ball. They've showed they've been able to win without Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is a box office type of player. I mean, he does it all. But this is a team that has great positional size. I mean, Malawach down low, 7'1", 7'2". He puts a lid on it if you get past him. Con Knipple's a strong player. Tyrese Proctor's been shooting the ball well. I mean, so this is a team that is really, really tough. And I think playing the best ball in the tournament in their first two games. But Arizona's good too. I mean, like, this is a team that can really get it done. Love has experience from the guard position. He's playing good basketball. They've been winning tough games. Everyone will be counting them out. So you can't just think this is automatically going to be Bama versus Duke in the Elite Eight. And obviously Alabama has to get it done against BYU because BYU is well coached and playing good basketball. But, I think, like I've thought all season long, Alabama is national championship good. And that is the expectation that this team has. They've been confident. The only thing that I would say to them is literally take it one game and one possession at a time. You cannot get ahead of yourself. You can't be thinking to what's down the pipe. You have to think the next play, the next possession, and what am I doing as far as my assignment and staying focused on the game? Because in the tournament, when teams go on 6-0, 8-0 runs, that is enough to end your season. Because you feel the pressure like, I have to get something done now. And that's why you have to lock in on every single possession from the opening tip and not allow these games to get away from you. You want to be in the game in the last 4 minutes because that's when anything can happen.
Richard, the last time you were on our show, we let you preach a little bit to Alabama basketball fans about trying to appreciate how good they have it right now. Nate Oates now has this team in the Sweet 16 for the third year in a row. Only ever happened once in program history besides this one. They've now made it here 4 times out of the last 5 seasons. Put that into perspective for us a little bit about what an accomplishment that is and what it is doing to the sort of position of Alabama basketball in the country right now.
It's everything. It's like what's the slogan to say? It's not blue blood, it's new blood. I mean, that's letting everybody know Alabama is here, and Nate Oats has been doing a phenomenal job. You know, most Alabama fans have these unrealistic expectations when it comes to all of the sports teams. I do think it's because of the standard that football has set historically, winning national championships. You look at a campus that only really memorializes coaches that win national championships. You don't hang banners up in Coleman Coliseum of good players and good coaches. It's just this national championship or nothing mentality. And that seeps over into every other sport, particularly basketball. When, you get beat in the NCAA tournament, it's like, oh, we just couldn't get it done. Well, you're getting it done, is what I'm telling you. And to be a part of 4 Sweet 16s in the last 5 years, name me 5 other programs, 6 other programs that are doing that. I mean, you're amongst the elite. You're in the moment right now. These are the times, if you are a young kid, and as a teenager or in college, you're going to look back at this and you're going to say, we were dominant when I was in school. We were amongst the best teams. And dominance doesn't necessarily mean that you have to win it all. Basketball is a tournament sport. I mean, even if you look at the traditional powers in their whole lifetime, I mean, let's take Kansas or Duke or whatnot. They've only won 5 national championships over 100-something years of playing the game. So it's not like there's a situation where there's someone out there that's won 18 national championships, or there's some dominant run of winning, 6 in 10 years. That doesn't really happen in this sport. So it's a goal within the goal on every round. Getting to Sweet 16s is a big, important goal within the goal. Getting to a Final Four is a goal within the goal. And then obviously to win the whole thing is just something that is special. Something special that you don't see any programs do except for a handful of them. And so you have to really appreciate what's been done. I know I personally appreciate it. I look at the run that this team has, and it's something that I would have loved to have been a part of. It was my dream. Sometimes it just doesn't, the cookie doesn't crumble that way. But what they're doing now by buying into a system, by Nate Oats being an outstanding tactician and a CEO over his staff to position himself with his mentality of analytics and how to get players better. I mean, it's effective and it's working. And even if there's moments as a fan that you say, oh man, I wish they would slow it down or post up or do this and that, you have to keep the mentality they're still winning games and they're still in it. So his system works, and you have to understand that and respect it. Because I know I do. It's been fun to watch, and I appreciate the success they have.
Richard, we're thrilled to have you back on the show. We're thrilled to have another weekend to watch Alabama basketball for at least one more week. Let's hope it's for more. Thanks for coming on the show and joining Beat Everyone.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Listen to Beat Everyone and subscribe to Beat Everyone on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks to you guys for listening. And we will see you guys again later this week for another episode of Beat Everyone. Thanks.